Viewers, imagine this. A woman calls her husband unworthy. In front of 200 guests, cameras flashing, and reporters watching. She pours wine on his face, right before signing an $800 million deal. But what she didn't know was that the man she just humiliated owned the very company she was about to sign with. And what he did next will make you question everything you know about love, betrayal, marriage, and revenge. Viewers, tell me, what would you do if your own spouse did that to you? In front of the whole world. Let's dive in. The ballroom of the Crescent Hotel glowed under golden chandeliers, with the Dallas skyline shining like diamonds through tall glass windows. Everywhere smelled of champagne, perfume, and ambition. Reporters filled the corners, camera flashes bursting like fireworks. And right there, at the center of it all, stood Vanessa Cole, the elegant, confident CEO of Cole Design Group. Her silver-gray dress shimmered with every movement, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. This was her night. Her company had just won the $800 million urban renewal contract with Titan Infrastructure Holdings, a deal that would make her one of the most powerful women in Texas. Investors, politicians, billion-dollar executives, they were all there, clinking glasses, smiling, whispering her name. Vanessa Cole, the woman who turned sketches on diner napkins into skyscrapers touching the clouds. But while everyone celebrated her rise, one man sat quietly at a table near the back. Ethan Cole. He wore a simple navy blue suit. No flashy cufflinks. No designer tie. Just calm eyes and quiet dignity. For years, he had been the man behind her smile, her biggest supporter, the one who stayed up late helping her review designs and pitch ideas when no one else believed in her. But lately, Vanessa didn't see him that way anymore. To her, he was ordinary. A man too simple for the world she wanted to conquer. The kind of husband she'd rather hide than show off. When the host finally took the stage and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, the signing ceremony begins," the entire room erupted in applause. Vanessa smiled proudly. This was it, the moment she'd dreamed of her entire life. She stepped down from the podium, soaking in every flash of the cameras. But then, something unexpected happened. Ethan stood up. He walked slowly toward her, holding a glass of champagne. People turned, whispering. "Who's that?" someone asked. "Her husband," another murmured. He smiled gently, leaning close so only she could hear. "I'm proud of you, Vanessa. You worked so hard for this." Her smile flickered. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" she whispered sharply. "I wanted to see you sign the deal," he said softly. "You've earned this moment." Vanessa glanced nervously at the nearby investors watching. "That's sweet, Ethan, but this is a corporate event. You can congratulate me at home." He didn't move. "I just wanted to stand beside you for a minute." Her face hardened. People were staring. A few of her colleagues were whispering. She forced a brittle laugh. "Stand with me? Ethan, you don't belong here. These are people who make billion-dollar decisions. They don't live in your world." The crowd murmured quietly. Even the music softened. "I'm not trying to embarrass you," Ethan said calmly. "I'm just proud of you." Her pride flared. She reached for her glass of red wine, her voice trembling with contempt. "You're unworthy to stand beside me, Ethan. Look at you, simple, small, ordinary. You stink of mediocrity. You have no class." The room froze. The waiter nearby stopped mid-pour. Someone gasped. "Maybe this," she sneered, raising her glass, "will remind you of your place." And before anyone could move, she threw the wine. It splashed across his face. A deep, red burst against his clean shirt. The entire ballroom went silent. The liquid dripped from his chin onto the marble floor. A camera flash went off, freezing that moment forever. Ethan didn't flinch. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a white handkerchief and wiped his face once. His movements were calm, steady. Then he looked at her. Not angry, not humiliated, just quiet. He nodded once. "I understand." And with that, he turned and walked away. No shouting, no scene. Just the sound of his footsteps echoing through the grand hall. The guests parted as he passed. No one dared to stop him. Vanessa stood there, her chest rising and falling, her pride burning hotter than her shame. Someone whispered, "That was cruel," but she ignored them. She tossed the empty glass on a nearby tray and said coldly, "My husband gets emotional around success." Then she forced a laugh. "Let's continue, shall we?" The host nodded awkwardly. "Of course. Please, everyone, return to your seats." Vanessa smiled again as if nothing had happened. But deep down, a storm had already begun. Outside, on the marble steps of the hotel, Ethan stood beneath the glow of the streetlights. He reached into his pocket, took out his phone, and stared at the screen for a long moment. His expression didn't change. Then, with calm precision, he made 2 calls. The first was to a man named Pierce. "Terminate the Titan Coal contract," Ethan said quietly. "Effective immediately." "Yes, sir," Pierce replied. "Should I announce it tonight?" "Do it now." The second call was to Hayes. "Withdraw all Black Elm Capital funding from Coal Design Group. Every account, every subsidiary." "Yes, Mr. Cole. Send confirmation to my private email when it's done." He hung up, pocketed the phone, and looked up at the sky. The night lights glimmered across the glass towers. The same skyline Vanessa once said she would own someday. He exhaled slowly, buttoned his jacket, and walked toward his car. Inside, Vanessa stood back at the podium, her smile wide and bright again. "Tonight," the host announced, "marks a historic partnership worth $800 million between Titan Infrastructure and Coal Design Group. Let's hear it for the visionary leading this new era, Vanessa Cole." The hall thundered with applause. Vanessa lifted her pen, poised above the gold-trimmed folder, her eyes sparkling. "This is the beginning of something extraordinary," she said. The cameras flashed, and just as her pen touched the page, a man in a charcoal suit rushed forward from the back of the hall. He whispered urgently to the host. The host's face went pale. Ladies and gentlemen," he stammered. "We need to pause for a moment." The room quieted. Vanessa frowned. "What's going on?" The man cleared his throat, his voice uneasy. "We just received an order from Titan's executive office. The signing is suspended." The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. "Suspended," Vanessa repeated, her smile faltering. "That's impossible. Who authorized that?" The man swallowed hard. "The directive came directly from the top." The top. Her pen slipped from her hand. She laughed nervously. "That's absurd. Titan's CEO wouldn't cancel this deal without notice." But one by one, the executives began checking their phones. Their faces drained of color. Her assistant rushed forward, pale and trembling. "Vanessa," she whispered. "We just got an email from Black Elm Capital. They're pulling all investments. Every single one." "What?" Vanessa gasped. "That can't be right." Her assistant held up her phone. The message was clear. "Effective immediately, all funding for Coal Design Group is withdrawn. Future communication not required." The room erupted in chaos. Photographers lowered their cameras. Investors whispered to one another. The man from Titan closed his folder. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cole," he said firmly. "The deal is off." "No," she cried. "You can't just walk out." But he was already leaving, followed by his team. The ballroom that had been filled with celebration moments ago now hummed with confusion and disbelief. Her lover, Daniel, one of her senior partners, rushed toward her. "Vanessa, we should go. Something's wrong. You're trending already." She shook her head, dazed. "This was supposed to be my night." Her voice cracked. The cameras were still clicking, capturing every tear, every tremble. And then, she saw it. The shattered wine glass lying near her table. The deep red stain on the marble floor where she had thrown the wine at Ethan. Her chest tightened. Her throat burned. "Ethan," she whispered. The realization hit her like a blow. And somewhere far from that hall, Ethan Cole sat in his car, watching the city lights slide across the windshield, calm, unshaken, certain. Inside that ballroom, The final applause faded into whispers, and Vanessa Cole's world began to fall apart. That night, the celebration turned into chaos. The ballroom that once echoed with laughter now pulsed with panic. People hurried out, whispers trailing behind them like smoke. Vanessa stood frozen, her silver dress now dull under the harsh white lights. Her phone buzzed nonstop, messages, missed calls, alerts from every news outlet in the city. She grabbed her assistant's arm. "Tell me this is a mistake. Tell me this isn't happening." But her assistant's eyes said everything. Vanessa's empire was crumbling, live, in front of everyone who once praised her. Within an hour, Cole Design Group began trending, not for the deal of the year, but for the scandal of the decade. CEO humiliates husband before billion-dollar deal collapse. Vanessa Cole ruins $800 million contract after public outburst. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. There it was, a video of her throwing wine at Ethan's face. Millions of views already, thousands of comments, every one of them cutting like glass. That poor man. She deserves to lose everything. Money made her blind. She pressed her phone to her chest and sank into a chair. The walls felt like they were closing in. "Ma'am, your car's waiting," her driver said quietly. She didn't answer. She just stared at the glass doors, hoping Ethan would walk back through them and tell her this was all just a nightmare. But he didn't. The next morning, the headlines were everywhere. TV anchors dissected her every move. Stock analysts predicted the fall of her company. In less than 24 hours, Cole Design Group lost 60% of its value. Contracts were frozen. Banks began to pull back loans. And investors who once called her a visionary now avoided her calls. Vanessa barely slept. She sat on the floor of her office, hair messy, eyes swollen. Her once spotless desk was covered in documents, news clippings, and coffee cups. She called Ethan dozens of times. Each one went unanswered. She tried texting him. "Ethan, please. We need to talk. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Please come home." But there was nothing. Not even a read receipt. Her assistant entered the room hesitantly. "Ma'am, the board members are waiting. They need to know the way forward." Vanessa looked up slowly. "The way forward?" she repeated, her voice hollow. "What forward? There is no forward. Ma'am, the staff are scared. The media's outside. You have to say something." She laughed bitterly. "Say what?" "That I threw wine at my husband because I thought I was better than him." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She wiped them roughly and stood. "Tell them. I'll make a statement soon." The assistant nodded quietly and left. Vanessa turned to the window. From her 42nd floor office, she could see the skyline, tall, glittering, untouchable. The very skyline she once bragged she'd own. But in that moment, she felt small, invisible, powerless. 3 days later, she heard a knock on the door of her mansion. When she opened it, a courier stood there holding an envelope. "Delivery for Mrs. Cole." She took it, thanked him weakly, and closed the door. Inside was a short letter, typed neatly, no signature. Effective immediately, Cole Design Group has been bought out by Black Elm Capital. You may vacate your position as CEO within 72 hours. Management. Her legs gave out. She sank to the floor, the letter crumpling in her shaking hands. She whispered through tears, "Black Elm Capital? But that's Ethan's company." That was the moment it all clicked. The sudden deal suspension, the funding withdrawal, the quiet, calm way he left the ballroom. He hadn't walked away defeated. He had walked away in control. He owned everything, every company that backed her, every investor that supported her, every piece of her empire. And with one word, he had taken it all back. 2 weeks later, Vanessa stood in front of her nearly empty office. Boxes lined the floor. Her awards, her framed magazine covers, her trophies, all packed away. As she turned to leave, she saw the reflection of her younger self in the glass door. Ambitious, glowing, full of pride. The same pride that had just destroyed her. She whispered to her reflection, Who did you become, Vanessa? That evening, she drove to the outskirts of Dallas, to the quiet neighborhood where she and Ethan had once lived before success changed everything. The streets were lined with oak trees and quiet houses. She parked near their old home, the one they'd built together. The lights were on. Through the window, she could see Ethan sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee. For a moment, she just watched him. No cameras, no reporters, just the man who once believed she could conquer the world. She took a deep breath and stepped out of her car. Her heels clicked softly on the pavement as she walked to the door. Her heart pounded. She knocked once. Ethan opened the door slowly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. He looked exactly the same, calm, steady, unreadable. She, on the other hand, looked like a storm that had lost its strength. "Ethan," she whispered, "please don't close the door. I just want to talk." He didn't move. He simply said, "Come in." She stepped inside. Everything looked familiar. The faint smell of cedar, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the framed photos on the wall. Their wedding picture still hung by the hallway, untouched. She stopped in front of it, tears filling her eyes. "I never meant for things to get this far," she said softly. "I don't even recognize the person I became." Ethan said nothing. He simply poured a cup of coffee and placed it in front of her. She sat down slowly. The silence between them was heavy. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "Not because I lost everything, but because I finally realized what I threw away. You were my foundation, my calm, my reason, and I destroyed that." Her voice broke. "I called you unworthy, Ethan, but the truth is, I wasn't worthy of you." He watched her quietly, his eyes soft but unreadable. Finally, he said, "Vanessa, when you threw that wine, I didn't feel angry. I just felt sorry. Sorry for the woman I loved, the woman who used to build things with her hands, not with her ego." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I thought power would make me respected. I thought money would make me complete. But none of it means anything without you." He sighed deeply and leaned back. "Vanessa, I didn't destroy your company to hurt you. I did it to stop you from destroying yourself. You were becoming someone the real Vanessa wouldn't even recognize." She looked up at him, her lips trembling. "I lost everything, Ethan. The company, the fame, the friends. Everyone's gone." He nodded slowly. "Maybe that's exactly what you needed, to find yourself again." She sobbed quietly, covering her face. "I don't even know where to start." "Start here," he said gently. "With humility, with truth, with gratitude." She lowered her hands, her eyes red and raw. "Do you still hate me?" He shook his head slowly. "No, Vanessa. I never hated you. I just stopped recognizing you." A painful silence filled the room. Then he added softly, "The woman I fell in love with? She's still in there somewhere. But she'll have to rebuild, brick by brick. Not with contracts or cameras, but with kindness." She nodded, wiping her tears. "Can I ever earn your forgiveness?" He looked at her for a long time before answering. "Forgiveness isn't something you earn, Vanessa. It's something you grow into." She took a deep breath, tears spilling again. "Then I'll grow. I'll start again, even if it takes years." He stood, walked to the window and said quietly, "I believe you will. Just don't lose yourself again chasing the world." 6 months later, the once famous Vanessa Cole now lived a quieter life. No cameras, no flashing lights, just early mornings, paint-stained hands, and handwritten blueprints scattered across a small studio apartment. She'd started a new company, small but honest, a design firm that focused on rebuilding orphanages and shelters. Her first project? Renovating a children's home that had burned down years ago, the same one she and Ethan once donated to in their early days. Sometimes, after long workdays, she'd get texts from Ethan. Short, polite, distant, but kind. "Saw your project on the news. Proud of you. Keep going. You're doing good." Each message made her smile softly. She knew she might never get back what she lost, But she had found something even more valuable, herself. And one quiet Sunday morning, while walking through a completed project site, she saw a familiar car parked nearby. Ethan stepped out, holding 2 cups of coffee. They stood there in silence for a while. 2 people who had seen love rise, pride break, and redemption rebuild. He handed her a cup and smiled faintly. "You did well, Vanessa." She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "Not yet," she said softly. "But I'm getting there." And for the first time in a long time, she smiled. Not for the cameras, not for the crowd, but for herself. Sometimes, the greatest empire you'll ever build isn't made of glass towers or gold contracts. It's made of forgiveness, humility, and love that survives even when everything else falls apart.